The moon doesn't just rise tonight, it hunts. Every creature bows to its call, but only one dares to defy it. The Lycan King. They say he has no heart left to give. They say no woman survives his claim. But tonight, the prophecy bleeds. Because when his eyes find her, the virgin meant for no one, he whispers the words that will destroy them both. I will break you gently. If you're still breathing after that, stay. Like, subscribe, and send your hypes. They help our storytelling reach deeper, burn longer, and keep this dark world alive. Episode 1, The Moon That Chose Wrong. The moon hung too close to the earth that night, huge, red, restless. Every omega stood beneath it, wrapped in nervous silence, waiting for the Lycan King's choice. The hall smelled of smoke, blood and fear polished clean for ceremony. She hadn't come to be chosen. She only came to see what power looked like up close. Hidden among servants, she thought the king would never notice her. Small, unmarked, nothing. Then he stopped breathing. His head turned, slow and deliberate, as if someone had whispered her name inside his skull. Every eye followed his. The crowd parted until the distance between them became unbearable. He walked through the nobles without a word. His steps made the torches falter. When he reached her, he didn't ask who she was. He simply looked, long enough that her pulse lost rhythm. Kneel. The command wasn't shouted. It was soft, calm, and absolute. She tried to resist, but the air itself bent around his voice. Her knees touched the marble before she could think. The court gasped. The priests froze mid-chant. Prophecies never mentioned a nameless girl. He lowered himself until his shadow swallowed hers. One hand hovered close, not to harm, not yet. The touch landed at her throat, light as a vow, tracing the line where fear met surrender. You smell like my undoing. The words weren't cruel. They were almost tender, spoken as if he hated that they were true. The drums began again. The nobles whispered that the moon had made a mistake, but when he pulled her to her feet and turned toward the throne, everyone knew. The mistake belonged to them. Morning spills through the tall windows, turning gold into fire. She wakes in a bed too wide, too soft, wrapped in silence that hums like a warning. Every corner of the chamber glitters with wealth. Carved columns, silk curtains, mirrors that reflect a life that isn't hers. When the guards bow, they don't look at her. They look past her, toward the man standing by the window. The Lycan King. Barefoot on marble, robe half-fastened, unreadable. He doesn't speak at first, only watches. His eyes track the small movements, the way she hides her hands in the blanket, the way her breath stalls when his shadow crosses the floor. She breaks the silence first. I want to go home. A quiet laugh. Not mocking, just tired. Home doesn't exist anymore, he says. Not after last night. She tries to argue, but he walks closer, stopping just close enough that the air between them changes temperature. He lowers his head slightly, voice barely above a whisper. Freedom, he repeats, as if tasting the word. You'll beg me to take it. She doesn't understand the meaning until he turns away. No chains, no commands, just absence. He leaves her to wander the royal wing, surrounded by luxury that feels like a cell. Every guard watches, but none speak. Every door opens outward except hers. At dusk, he returns. The room darkens with him. He doesn't sit. He doesn't touch. He only circles slowly as though memorizing a fragile secret. Steam cue. His restraint becomes the tension, his voice the weapon. Every question he asks feels like a test. What do you fear most? Every answer she gives feels like surrender. He stands close enough for her pulse to trip over itself, close enough that she can feel the warmth of his breath slide across her skin without ever landing. Tomorrow, he murmurs, tone heavy with promise. I'll show you what gentle means. She doesn't sleep that night, not out of fear, but because she's starting to want to know. The council chamber hums with low voices and the scrape of armor. He sits on the throne, every inch carved from authority. She stands behind him until he gestures to the empty chair at his right. Sit. The word is calm, but every official in the room stops moving. She stays standing. A long heartbeat passes. His gaze doesn't change, yet the air in the chamber tightens until even the guards shift uneasily. Then he looks away. Meeting dismissed. He says nothing to her for the rest of the day. No punishment, no attention. Just silence heavy enough to feel like exile. When night falls, the silence follows her into the royal wing. The doors close, and the sound of the latch makes her throat dry. He's there, still dressed from council, sleeves rolled back, eyes unreadable. He crosses the floor without hurry. The distance between them shrinks until she feels his shadow spill over her shoulders. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't need to. This morning, he says softly, you taught me that pride still lives in you. Her pulse stumbles. You said you wanted a queen, not a servant. His answer is quiet. I did. But even a queen must learn when silence protects her. He steps behind her. The pause stretches until her breath betrays her, catching at the edge of fear and something else she can't name. He lifts a strand of her hair between his fingers, just that, and lets it slide away. The sound of it falling back against her skin is louder than speech. Each motion is measured, deliberate, breaking her rebellion piece by piece without cruelty. Every inch of restraint feels sharper than violence. When he finally speaks again, his voice has lost its hardness. Disobedience doesn't anger me, he murmurs. It only reminds me how much gentleness costs. Her knees weaken before she realizes she's moved. She doesn't fall. He steadies her with a hand at her arm, firm, steady, unthreatening. The silence holds them there, close enough that her heartbeat echoes between them. If this is breaking, she whispers, eyes closed. Why does it feel like healing? He doesn't answer. The question lingers in the air long after he's gone, more binding than any chain. The northern procession arrives at dusk, banners of frost blue silk, armor polished bright enough to blind. At its center rides the woman who was once promised the crown, every step of her horse ringing like accusation. She enters the hall without bowing. My king, she says, voice sweet and sharp, you've traded iron for lace. No one breathes until he answers. Careful, he replies. Lace cuts deeper when pulled tight. For days the castle hums with gossip. Servants whisper that the new Luna drains his strength, that her touch brings weakness. Every council session grows shorter. Every night he grows quieter. The feast, meant to unite the clans, becomes a theater of venom. She sits beside him, smile small but steady, while the queen-to-be lifts a cup in mock salute. Moments later, the Luna's skin pales, the goblet crashes, the hall erupts. He catches her before she falls. The scent of the poison hits him first, sharp, bitter, deliberate. Who did this? Someone shouts. He doesn't answer. He carries her out, cloak trailing across the marble like a streak of blood. In the private chamber, the healers tremble, useless. Her breathing slows, eyes losing focus. He sends them away, locks the doors. The bond he swore not to claim thrums like a pulse in the air, answering her pain. He kneels beside the bed, hand hovering just above her heart. Don't make me choose, he mutters. Not yet. Then the light shifts, silver through the curtains, thick with the scent of rain. He lets the instinct take him. Power flickers under his skin, heat rolling off him in waves. When his palm meets her chest, the bond snaps open like lightning. Her body arches, breath returning in gasps. The poison burns away in streaks of light that vanish into him instead. She wakes hours later, weak but alive. The chamber smells of storm and smoke. He's slumped beside the bed, pale, shaking, eyes bright with something not entirely human. You shouldn't have done that, she whispers. He looks up, voice rough, ragged. Now you carry my scent, he says. There's no undoing it. Outside, the first howl breaks over the mountains, a sound no court has heard in a century. The curse doesn't whisper anymore. It roars. Every night the king disappears into the woods, half man, half something ancient. By morning, soldiers find claw marks carved into stone, and trees split open like they were paper. The council gathers in secret halls, voices shaking. He's losing himself, one says. He already has, answers another. Plans form. A new heir, a quiet execution, a kingdom saved from its monster. She hears everything. And still, she runs after him. No shoes, no cloak, only the bond pulling her through the dark. Branches slice her arms, roots catch her feet. But she doesn't stop. When the forest opens under the red sky, she finds him on his knees in the clearing, skin glistening with rain, breath wild, eyes burning silver. He looks at her like he's seeing both salvation and doom. "Go back," he growls. "No." The word cuts through the storm. He moves before thought, faster than wind, and suddenly she's against the earth, heartbeat hammering against the rhythm of his. For a moment, everything is still, the forest holding its breath. He braces his hands on either side of her, trembling, fighting the beast that wants to devour and the man who wants to protect. Lightning cracks overhead. The air smells of heat and rain. He doesn't hurt her. He doesn't even touch. He just leans close enough that his breath shakes against her throat, an unspoken prayer he can't say aloud. The restraint is agony. The need is reverence. His voice finally breaks. "I don't know what's left of me." She lifts a trembling hand and presses it to his chest, where his heart still beats steady beneath the chaos. "You're not losing control," she whispers, eyes meeting his through the rain. "You're giving it." Something in him cracks. Not violence, but release. He buries his face in her shoulder, and for the first time, the forest goes quiet. When dawn comes, they walk back together, his arm heavy around her, his eyes no longer silver but the color of mercy. The council moves before dawn. Their decree spreads through the castle like cold smoke. The Luna is a witch, the bond a curse. Guards drag her from the royal wing while he's gone to war at the border. They take her to the Temple of Moonlight, where judgment is final and mercy is myth. She's forced to kneel beneath the crystal dome, silver chains ringing against the stone. Priests chant, their voices hollow, asking her to deny the bond, to say the king bewitched her. She keeps her head high. "I will not lie." The first blow of the ritual hammer splits the marble beside her. By the second, the moon itself seems to recoil. Far from the temple, he feels it, the pull of the bond tightening like a noose around his heart. Horses drop where they stand. His men call after him, but he's already running. Inside the temple, the priests begin the final verse. Light gathers above her head, pure and cruel. Then the doors explode inward. He stands framed by the shattered arch, eyes lit like molten metal. One word leaves his mouth, more growl than speech. Enough. The chains disintegrate. The ritual circle collapses into fire and dust. Priests scatter. The council flees. Only she remains, trembling amid the ruin. He reaches her. The moonlight cuts across his face. Half man, half beast. Blood stains his hands. None of it hers. For a long moment he just looks at her, breathing hard, jaw tight, fury fading into something worse. Need. "I swore I'd never break what I loved," he says quietly. But they already did. He draws her close, not to claim, not to own, but because he's come apart and she's the only thing keeping him human. The heat between them feels like the last heartbeat before the world ends. When the dust settles, the temple stands in ruins. The bond burns brighter than ever. She leans into him, voice raw, barely a whisper. "If this is ruin," she says, eyes closing against his chest, "I'd choose it again." Outside, the moon flickers once and hides behind cloud, as if even it can't bear to watch what comes next. The kingdom splits in a single night. Banners that once swore loyalty now march beneath the sigil of rebellion. The air smells of ash and frost. The throne hall lies in pieces, flames licking at the torn flags of his house. They run before dawn, slipping through secret tunnels carved into the mountain centuries ago. Behind them, the city burns. Ahead, only snow and silence. By the time they reach the high passes, the storm has turned savage. Every gust cuts like a blade. His strength falters, the curse chewing through his veins faster than the cold. She drags him onward until her fingers lose feeling. A narrow crevice opens into a forgotten refuge. Stone walls, a half-dead fire pit, remnants of some old war camp. They collapse inside, the wind howling behind them. He tries to keep his distance. If the curse spreads, he warns, you'll carry it too. She moves closer anyway. Then let it. He turns away, jaw tight, but she won't let him hide. The heat between them builds slowly, born from exhaustion and the kind of fear that strips people bare. Each breath warms the air. Each glance asks what neither of them can speak. The restraint that defined them cracks. It's not about desire now. It's survival, the instinct to hold something living while the world outside dies. He reaches for her like a man reaching for light in a cave. She answers without hesitation. No words. Only breath and the sound of the storm beyond the walls. Every motion is confession. Every heartbeat a surrender they can't take back. When the wind finally quiets, they're tangled in silence, the fire guttering low. He presses his forehead to hers, whispering, "If we die tonight, at least it's as one." She looks up. The moonlight breaks through the cracks in the stone ceiling, silvering her face. Her eyes glint with the same cursed shimmer as his. "You broke me gently," she says, voice steady. "But I broke you completely." Outside, the first clash of armies echoes through the mountains. Inside, the bond seals. No longer curse, no longer choice, only truth. The storm over the mountains never ends, it only shifts direction. By the time they return, the capital is a graveyard of smoke and broken banners. The enemy has already breached the gates, the council has turned on itself. And through the ruin, the Lycan King walks, his Luna beside him, her eyes burning with the same silver fire that once marked his curse. He draws his sword. She doesn't wait for command. Together they move like one heartbeat, cutting through the chaos, every strike an answer to the years they were denied. The jealous queen falls first. Her blade catches the moonlight, then his steel finds her throat. The sound it makes is the end of a dynasty. The council burns next, crushed beneath the weight of the power they tried to control. When the smoke clears, the hall is quiet again. Too quiet. He turns to her. Her glow is fading, the curse consuming what it borrowed. "You were never meant to fight," he says, voice rough. She smiles, small, tired. "You were never meant to love." He reaches for her, but she steps back, shaking her head. The air between them hums with the bond's final demand. "It's stronger than both of us," she whispers. "Let me end it." He shakes his head. "I won't let you." Her reply is soft, almost tender. "You already did." She lifts her hand, palm against his chest, right where the curse lives. Light flares, too bright to bear. Every breath she's ever taken pours into him. Every heartbeat, every word unsaid. He tries to hold her, but there's only warmth and wind. The glow fades. The hall falls silent. When dawn breaks, he wakes alone on the cold marble floor. The battle is over. The world is quiet. The scent of her still lingers. Wild honey, rain, and fire. He rises slowly, crown lying broken beside him. The throne room glitters with ash. He looks toward the empty space where she once stood and whispers almost gently, "You broke me gently, and I'll never heal." Outside, the new sun climbs through the smoke, gilding the ruins in gold. And for the first time in centuries, The Lycan King kneels.